Hi, I welcome you all on my channel, An Evolving Mind of Compliance. Today, I have come with a very relevant topic, which is onboarding. Onboarding means start of the relationship. We are taking certain customer, some kind of a customer into our database. So it's like the seed has been sown. It's like the child has just come out of the mother womb and it has to grow. It has to become a tree. It has to become a plant. So like that. So onboarding is the most important and the crucial aspect. If we have at the very first stage things in a proper manner, in a correct manner, we will be able to thwart the maximum risk coming out of the AML, coming out of the sanction, coming out of anything. So we will be able to thwart the financial crime emanating out of the wrong onboarding procedures and policies. So therefore, it came to my mind that I should discuss around certain points which are very relevant for onboarding. So the points which I find are the most relevant, there could be the other points also, but the most relevant, which will have a proper profile, which will help us to contemplate whether we are able to take the customer on board or not, and what are the requirement as per the international standard, as per the local standards, international standard, as per all the international agencies, what all FATF 40 guidelines and recommendations, what are the minimum requirements or the most relevant requirements that I have incorporated into this onboarding process. So first is customer information profile. Second is know your customer KYC. Then it is screening, type of customer, site visit. So these are some of the points which we are going to discuss today. These are the most relevant ones. So the power of strong onboarding process. What what is the power? Means what power a strong onboarding process could have, could impact, and could be utilized for. That that is the most important for any organization, particularly financial institution and the bank. Those who are taking the deposits from the customer or those who are providing the services to the customer related to their financial needs. So it helps maintain robust compliance, protects organization. So that means if we have a strong onboarding process, it helps to protect the organization. It helps to thwart the risk, financial crime risk from the customer. So it is like taking a 360-degree view of a customer. So like this, so therefore, the power of strong onboarding process is to maintain robust compliance and protect organization. So customer identification and verification. So this is the first aspect, customer identification and customer verification. Means first of all, let's say for example, you go to the any bank or a financial institution. They ask you for your identity documents, like identity document, maybe passport, maybe your MHID, maybe your any other relevant documents like in India, Aadhaar card, your PAN card, your address proof. These are all a part of the customer identification process and you're establishing your address. And then we have to authenticate that document. Authenticate means verifying it from the origin. So that is the most important, because unless you verify, there could be the possibility that the documents what have been given to you as in a copied form might not be correct. So that is the most important. You have to have established the policy that you should be able to verify the original of the documentation what you have collected for the identification of the customer. Identification of the customer has to be from the photo identity proof. It shouldn't be from the non-photo identity proof. For example, if I am giving the identification proof, the person sitting at the counter should be able to relate my photograph, my identity proof with my face, and then he should be able to relate all my details, but related to written in that identification document. So this is the most important. So the first and foremost thing is collection of the identification document and authenticate it from the original. That is the first aspect. Yes, there could be certain documents which might be more relevant. Like for example, you have to have, like for example, In UA, the Emirates ID for an individual and the trade license for a company are the most important. Then it comes the passport copy for the passport copy and an address proof and all those things. These are relevant documents that has to be considered. There could be some little lesser in, relevant. So that could be eliminated, that could be taken, but yes, the most relevant because in your database, in your core banking, in your software, the most relevant details should be populated. So accordingly, you have to take the customer verification and identification put together. This term is called customer identification process or customer information process or customer information profile. So it could have any name to it. The KYC. The KYC is generally people are taking it otherwise just collection, just the one aspect of it, which is I have spoken of in my previous slide, customer identification. People are restricting themselves to customer identification or customer information profile. But KYC has got a broader meaning. Broader meaning. Here comes the picture. We generally are restricted ourselves to collection of the documents. No, we should be able to see the financial crime risk that account is bringing to our organization. We should be able to see beyond what is being written in the document. We should be able to have a holistic view around the customer from the financial crime perspective. It could be sanction compliance, it could be money laundering, it could be fraud, it could be any other thing. So we should have a detailed understanding around the financial crime plan. If you look at the customer information profile as I talk, it is important, but more important is if you compare both the points, the more important is to have the proper understanding of the customer risk which is coming to the organization. For that, you have to have a proper in-depth search about that customer. So financial crime aspect. Generally, people I have observed during the onboarding process, people keep on collecting the documents, but they forget about to search about the customer, to look at it thoroughly, to be test it about customer financial crime risk. That is the most important. So the as I've written, customer due diligence is to have a detailed structure around, to have a detailed understanding around the customer about the financial crime risk customer could pose. So gathering and verifying information about the client to assess the risk they pose. This includes understanding the client's identity and background, the nature and purpose of the business relationship, the expected transaction behavior based on the client's profiling, and your presentation. So you have to have an understanding around what kind of a business it could be, what kind of a transaction they would be carrying out. Will it be more cash? Will it be more transfer? What kind of an will it be a cross-border payment? Exactly the business model. You should take the flow chart of the business model and accordingly you should relate your transaction pattern. Let's say if I say I will be dealing more in a local with a local client within UA, then there may be the possibility I may be dealing more in cash, more in check clearing, more in local transfer. But in similar way, if person says that I am more into the trading and import and export, so there may be the possibility that they should have a more cross-border payment. So your profile of the customer and your profile of the transaction should tally. So that you have to see. And then you have to look at the other aspect, which is the jurisdiction they are dealing in. What could be the risk? Let's say for in local transfer, there could be the possibility that there is no trade happening because it is difficult to get the transportation documents of the material from one place to another. They will say I have transferred material from here to here. I have transferred it in my own car. So in this way, we have to think, we have to create, we have to write in our report what all risks, how we will mitigate it, what would be the transaction pattern and all those things. So this way, we have to go in depth. Just collecting the documentation, fine. But if you don't do this, you have missed the 70% part of the onboarding process. Similarly, enhanced due diligence is, let's say, if during the process, let's say, as I've given you example, that there are more cross-border payments, more a customer is a politically exposed person, or if you find that customer may be dealing in a jurisdiction which is high risk, so then, or maybe person is dealing in a product which could be high risk, or which could, there may be the possibility, as per the public domain information, that product comes from a country which is sanctioned. So accordingly, it raises the risk, and it is for the high risk customer that we have to go in more detail. We have to ask for the documentation of the previous transaction if at all had happened. Then we have to have an understanding with the customer that what he understands about the business, what is his level of understanding in the business in that case. So similarly, customer due diligence, the first part, the moment you find any high risk indicia, you have to go for an high risk, which is called enhanced due diligence. Kindly note, this enhanced due diligence at the time of onboarding has to be conducted by the relationship managers, officer, marketing officers. But during the process of business relationship, it has to be carried by the second line of defense, which is your internal compliance department. They have to, on an ongoing basis, they have to monitor their transactions, they have to do the periodic review, they have to see the transactions are in tandem with the initial profile of the customer. So there is a two-way. One is at the time of onboarding, and the second is being done by second line of defense on an ongoing basis. Then the UBO. What is UBO? There is a difference between a beneficial owner and an UBO. The beneficial owner could be a company also, but UBO, ultimate beneficial owner, will always be a natural person. I have observed during my experiences that people at times leave only up to a, let's say, for example, a company A has got a three UBOs. One is 25%, second is 15%, third is company. So they will identify these two natural person and third as company. But then in case there is one company in this UBO structure, we have to go beyond it to find it that who is the natural person behind it. And there are two processes to identify UBO. One is that you have to go by share percentage. The share percentage depends upon the international standard, depends upon your local regulator perspective, even depends upon your internal policy. Let's say in majority of the internationally, it is 25% and above as far as share percentage is concerned. But internally, you might have 10%, 15%. That depends upon the internal policies of the bank or a financial institution. So accordingly, you have to identify. And second thing is that in case there is no one with the share percentage, or even despite of share percentage, if you look that there is a person, there maybe for example, I may be an investor. I have taken an share of 100%. I am the shareholder, 100% shareholder. But a person who doesn't want to come into the picture to be identified as UBO might be controlling my company because he has the experience, he has everything. I am just an investor. Therefore, he is he may be the controlling. So we have to have an, as I've told you, we have to have a detailed understanding. So that particular individual along with me, I am being the 100% owner, will also become UBO because that he is the controlling person. Vice versa, if no one holds the threshold share holding in a particular company. Again, in that case, we have to look who is the manager, who is the controlling person, who has the control over the company or over the funds of the company. So that is called a UBO by control process. The third thing which comes into the picture is that when we have the public listed company, when we have a public listed company, when there is a public listed company, you need not to go beyond to find the person who are all the shareholders of the company. We have to see in a public listed company the board of directors and who is the main person controlling the board and the affairs of the company. So in these three ways, you have to identify the UBO. But please note that UBO will always be a natural person. In case of a legal arrangement, for example, trust, you have to see who is the settler, who are the beneficiaries, who are the trustees, and accordingly you have to take a call. It cannot be a straightway formula. It cannot be one size fits all. It will change, but then only it will be based on the understanding, based on the interview you have with the customer, that who is going to be the UBO. So accordingly, I have given this UBO ultimate beneficial owner for corporate legal entity, clients identifying individuals who ultimately own or control entity to prevent the use of shell companies for illicit purpose. Verification of UBO information. Then we have to verify the UBO identification document. We have to search across the public domain, internet, and all those things about the UBO. Then source of fund and source of wealth. It's a bit confusion around source of fund and source of wealth. Source of fund means the fund I have in hand at that particular time to be involved into the business. That is the source of fund. So if the bank has to ask the source of fund, that means they are asking me the fund. Let's say I'm telling that I will going to deposit a 100,000 dirhams into the account. So they should ask me what is the source of this 100,000. That is the source of fund. The source of wealth, how I acquired the wealth, what is my net worth, and how I acquired over a period of time. Let's say, in my case, if I am employed, my employment. For example, someone is business, it is a business. So you have to have an. Let's say I have observed that there are people, those who are front faces. If you are, they may be showing that they have a turnover of 500 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, 10 billion in a company. But when you ask them for their net worth, they don't have any net worth. How it could be possible a person running such a big business, they doesn't have net worth, they don't have the funds in their personal accounts and all those. This is all a red flag, indicious to look at it. Even I give you one example. For example, a person saying that he has got a 10 billion of turnover in a company, or maybe 100 million, 200 million. That means he is kind of a person who has got enough of money, but still he is living in a very humble or in a meager way, in a very meager way. That should be a red flag for him. Similarly, vice versa, a person is a very flamboyant and everything, but a person doesn't have the money. Person is doesn't have that much of net worth, but still he is living in a very flamboyant manner. He might be having luxury cars, luxury watches, and all those things. So this is all a indicia you have to look at. As the video is getting little longer, so I am little going fine, but I have given you the most relevant point. You have to look at it. Screening again means you have to screen. All the banks and financial institutions have their database of the software. So they have to screen in public domain that there shouldn't be any sanctioned person, there shouldn't be any adverse media person. There, if in case of any politically exposed person, accordingly the steps prescribed in your internal policies are to be taken. So screening is very important for the UBOs, for the companies, for their counterparties. It is all for all the parties involved in the onboarding process that is to be screened. Types of customer. There are individual salaried individuals, which could be low risk, most likely. The customer, in generally, we look at in the individual customer, we generally see that we look at the PAP or something like that, but we have to look certain customers which are employed. Let's say, for example, they are employed in a chemical factory, the chemical which is specific kind of a chemical and all those things may be related to some nuclear things and all those things. Those kind of customers should always be marked as high risk. Although they are employed, but still we have to mark them. Then we have to PUP, an individual dealing domicile on a high risk jurisdiction of high risk, they also to be marked as high risk. Similarly, if let's say in my individual capacity, I come to open an account as an individual person, but my source of income is from the gold sector. I am a businessman which holds the gold company. In such case, also you have to mark me in high risk customer. The relevant part is site visit. So generally, it is often undermined, but it is the very much important. It is because before we visit, we should have in a document. We should prepare the documentation, and according to the type of the customer. Let's say I am going to have a general trading who is saying I am into the trading. I have in a warehouse. So accordingly, I should have a site visit that I should be able to check check on the points what I have observed during the warehouse visit. Let's say if someone is saying I import the goods, I keep it in my warehouse and then I sell it. So It should be, if customer is saying its business model in this way, then we should be able to see during the site visit. If he's saying yes, then he should have a warehouse. He should be have a place to keep the goods. And when we visit, we should be able to see the goods are there. Similarly, a person saying, I'm into the consulting company. And consulting company might have an office, it might have an internet connection, telephone, and all those things. And in that case, we have to look how many staffs are there, what all people were there, what were their means level of understanding about their trade and all those things. So accordingly, site visit report cannot be one. It has to be as per the customer, like general trading companies, but and what are they doing in that. That for the gold sector, let's say for example, gold sector. In gold sector, when you visit, you see that they have the vault, if they keep a gold overnight, do they have the proper camera, do they have the proper security system, do they have the proper alarm system, and all those things. That is not there. And generally, for example, in gold sector, the gold sector people open their offices in a particular area which are more secure. Let's say, for example, in here, Dubai, there is a gold souk. So mostly the people are concentrated around that because that's a secure, more police presence, more control, more cameras, everything, more alarming systems and all those things. So in this way, we have to contemplate. If suddenly someone person has gone just far away from into the city, which is just an isolated place and all those things, and he's saying he or she is saying that I am into the gold business, so that is a kind of a red flag, and then you have to go for a more detailed duty. So site visit. Let's say, for example, I have observed one person was saying he's been dealing in electronics item, but when I saw the photograph, I find that that particular person is keeping the cold drinks also into the its company. So that's a kind of a red flag. I have to ask the person who has been it why he was keeping, what was the reason for it, what is he doing, and all those things. So in this way, we have to see and we have to onboard those. So only collecting the documentation doesn't suffice the need. It has to have a proper 360-degree view. So I hope I have cleared you maximum point, and please subscribe to my channel, like, comment so that I should be bringing more relevant content for our discussion and for our information. With this, I thank each and every one of you. Thank you very much.